Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to What's Up. So nice to have you with us. We appreciate you showing up with us today for a conversation between Gregg, Braden, and myself. We get together like this every 2 weeks as part of one of the programs of the Arlington Institute. We come to you from Berkeley Springs, our little resort town in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, not far from Washington and Baltimore. And we get together on a regular basis like this to talk about what's ever on our mind. And so, Gregg, how in the world are you and what's up?
I'm good, John. I'm coming to you from our little studio here in Santa Fe. Spring is here. I'm going to be in Berkeley Springs before the end of this year. I'm looking forward to that as well. You know, John, the last couple of weeks, there's so much that's happening, and it's happening so quickly. I tend to look at the big picture and kind of see the impacts, the social impacts, the things that are happening. And one of the things I'm noticing in the United States, I don't know where this is for my European friends. There is now a lot of conversation about nuclear war. There are preparations that are being shown on public service ads in New York for what to do in the event of nuclear war. Of course, they're ridiculous, as they say things like close the doors, close the windows, stay inside.
Get under your desk.
Well, you know, but John, you and I we grew up during the Cold War. And this was a very real threat to us during the Cold War. We grew up under the threat of nuclear annihilation from something like 73,000 nuclear warheads, enough to microwave this planet many times over. And there's a period of time where we haven't had that conversation. There's a generation now that's never had that conversation. And what's happening, John, is it's being normalized. It's being normalized in everyday conversation, in news media and things like that. And one of the questions that I've got is, what does that do to us? What does it do to individuals? What does it do to a society to accept the possibility that a nuclear exchange or a war between superpowers is a winnable war?
It screws everybody up, screws a whole generation or two up, because they sit around with this low grade emotional angst about whether they're going to be able to live or have any kids, or they introduce existential kind of issues in at very low ages, and you're not supposed to live like that. Yeah. And so it's really kind of setting the stage, I would argue, for this technocratic group that wants to control us all with the technology. And it's just part of the conditioning process, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the guys that I look at who have some kind of a picture about what's coming downstream, Cliff High and Martin Armstrong, both of them say there's not going to be any nuclear war. They're going to drive us right up to the cliff, to the edge of the thing. But if there was going to be a nuclear war, then that's the biggest signal you ever seen, and that would show up on the radar scope of these guys and their software. And so it's all part of just, as you say, this conditioning. It's just gonna.
I agree about the event. One of the things I was asking was, what's different now from when I was a kid? You know, one of the indelibly ingrained into my memory is the image, John, and I know you know exactly what this is when I share it. We had black and white televisions, and it was Khrushchev speaking, standing behind the podium, where he reached down, took off his shoe, and he banged the shoe on that podium, and he looked in the camera and he said, "We will bury you." And he was saying that the USSR would bury America. And I was a kid, man, and it scared me. To
Hmm.
hear that, the authoritative figure on television saying that, what was different, I think, and what's different today is we only had two major superpowers that had really big nukes, and
Yeah.
they had something called mutually assured destruction that was the deterrent. What's changed, John, is we now are dealing in an age where we've got what are called tactical nukes, which are smaller
Yeah.
nuclear devices that can be used with apparently more precision. They've never been used in war. They've been tested, but they've never been used in war. And I think that
Suitcase
changes.
nukes. They have
So
suitcase.
yeah, suitcase nukes, and I think that changes the conversation a little bit because what the military people I've talked to, what they say is, oh, you're not going to see mushroom clouds across the horizon. You're going to see tactical nukes taking out bunkers or something like that. So
Well,
that's different. That's a whole different world. I want to share. I saw I was on a plane flight over. Actually, it was during the eclipse, the last big eclipse. I was doing an interview in Los Angeles, and I was on the plane flight to go out. And I saw a real interesting film, John, that didn't get much hoopla. You didn't see it advertised very much in the theaters. The International Space Station is manned by Russia and the United States. It was built as a sign of cooperation while we were at war during the Cold War. Very civilized kind of war, if there is such a thing. And the way the movie starts is a new crew of Americans goes up to the Russian space station. They're scientists, they're friends, they're colleagues, they work together, they look out the window and they see nuclear war erupt on the Earth.
hmm.
And they both get messages from their respective countries commanding them to take over control of the International Space Station. And so the whole story, it's a psychological story about these are my friends. I
Yeah.
trust them. We're scientists, we're colleagues, and our nation just told us to do this. What do we do? And it really got me thinking about what the threat of nuclear war does to our sensibilities, to our psychology, to our worldview, to the way we plan for the future, jobs, careers, as you said, children and families. And we're seeing, I don't see anybody talking about this, John, but we're seeing it play out right now.
Well, you asked what's the difference, and I would suggest to you that instead of as you suggested, the stark kind of simplicity of the situation when we were kids, now it is very sophisticated and complex and multidimensional. And this nuclear business is only one of a whole bunch of different inputs that are all fighting for your mind. And instead of blowing up your body, which is what they wanted to do back then, what the war now is a war of the mind, and it's
Yeah.
how to capture uh, it wouldn't make much sense, frankly, from an economic point of view, and to blow up big cities and such, because you lose all the economics, and you have to rebuild and so on. And there are certainly some people in the system that understand that now. And so what they really want to do is get to the place where they can control us all without blowing everything up. And they are very sophisticated about it, and they are working this in every different way. And this whole business with threatening nuclear war is just one of a number of ways. I'm convinced that this has got AI on the back of it on both
Mm,
sides of the
yeah.
equation, on both sides, and that they're just working this thing saying, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this? And they're working all of the different kind of variants and saying, what if I where do I need to put in a little more fear over here? And what if I do this?
Yeah.
And so it's very sophisticated.
I,
Like,
I like the way you think, my friend. I appreciate you having this conversation with me
yeah,
today. And it's a conversation that's kind of bubbling under the surface. People are thinking about it. Some are talking about it. Some are afraid to talk about it. And I think it's good to be able to
well,
vocalize
the
some of these
time,
concerns. So thank you for doing that today, John. I appreciate it.
absolutely, absolutely. And the time is right. We've just got to really get pointed here. And so thank you, my friend. And thank you all that are watching. We appreciate it. Greg and I always have a good time in these kind of unstructured, unplanned conversations, and we hope you'll come back. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, and same time, same station. We come to you from the Arlington Institute in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, and you can find out all about us and the different programs we have at arlingtoninstitute.org. So thanks so much, and thank you, Greg. See you, man.
Thanks so much, John. Take care, everyone.